To the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is emergence. What would it look like if instead of living from the past, taking our past, projecting it forward, what would it look like if instead of doing that, we actually lived into the future? So I think it should be an interesting conversation. And before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you joining us this morning. So welcome also to everyone else who's here with us. And today's topic is emergence. So what does that mean? What does it even mean, emergence? Emergence meaning allowing ourselves to be in communication with life in such a way that we're able to be responsive to the call. In other words, to not be driven or to free ourselves from the predispositions of the past and to dance with life in a way that we are able to be informed by the emergent future. So that might sound kind of strange, but if we look at how we operate generally, what emerges is an awareness that we are living from the past. We're living from something that's dead and gone. The ideas that we have typically aren't even our own thoughts. And that may sound like a radical statement, but let's take a look. Let's take a look at the foundations of our being, of our assumptions. We're programmed into certain orientations to life, certain beliefs about what's right and what's wrong, certain mores, certain things that we assume as norms. For example, war. Like we kind of assume that war is part of living because it always has been. And we may be horrified at the atrocities of war, but imagining a world without it is something that I don't think too many of us do. even fossil fuels. This is a really interesting thing. There is such a momentum, thankfully, growing in the awareness that we need to end fossil fuels. And there is such a resistance, not just around fossil fuels, but this whole business paradigm that we have established to allowing truly sustainable technologies to emerge. So I have a friend who has been a leader for the past more than 25 years in hydrogen technology. And they have a deep, deep, strong conviction that hydrogen is the way to go. I think any of us that are actually really circumspect and aware can acknowledge that electric vehicles are not the way to go. They may, I don't even know if they're better than fossil fuel at this point. I'm inclined to think they are, but there is so much waste from electric batteries and so much abuse of the earth and people in extracting the chemicals and minerals that we need to use in their creation, that it's not sustainable for the long term by any stretch of the imagination. And hydrogen apparently is using hydrogen technology is something that can allow us to be much more much more integrated with natural process. It's much less of a an assault on the environment. And there are multiple ways to produce hydrogen, some of which utilize fossil fuel. So it perpetuates the existing fossil fuel paradigm versus other ways, like from water, for example. There are sustainable green ways to produce hydrogen. So hydrogen is not just a happy solution, regardless of how it's implemented. The implementation is really important. And what showed up in this conversation with this person was something that I wasn't even aware of. And that was that not only are the fossil fuel interests doing everything they can to keep things, the status quo, in place as much as possible, but we have this system of capitalism at this time, which is based on I'm trying to remember the word, well, which is based essentially on things breaking and needing maintenance and replacement, often replacement rather than repair, and also things that need maintenance. So what this person was saying is that one of the impediments to moving into even electric, but even more so hydrogen, is that many, many, many of the parts that currently need replacement and repair wouldn't. That there's much, much, much less maintenance, much less wear on a vehicle run by hydrogen and also somewhat by electric, that the dealerships and the repair centers would be suffering because there would be less need. the longevity of the product, the vehicle, would be much greater. So ultimately, there may be less demand for new vehicles. And so what's happening is because of the economic ramifications and the strength of these lobbying arms and the power of the past holding these paradigms in place, all of that is stifling the emergent potentials. So that's kind of a long-winded but practical example of how we can be shackling ourselves and our potentials based on our pasts. So we tend to believe that the past predicts the future. But it's not entirely true. It can. The past will predict the future as long as we're bound to the past. But if we break ranks with the past, if instead of looking back at these things that are dead and dying, these things that are artifacts of a dead or dying existence, something that's over, what happens is we look back, we grab this stuff, we put it in front of us and live into that. And if you think about it, it's kind of crazy. We either do that, take the stuff from the past, put it in front of us and live into it, or we try to move forward while we're facing backward to the past. And if we're turning our back on what's emergent, literally, how can we possibly detect or respond to what's happening? We can't. And there are circumstances that are emergent in this moment that have not ever been seen in recorded civilization. We are actually facing unprecedented times. We are unprecedented challenges. So the question is, how do we live into the emergence rather than out of the past? And good morning. Maybe the irony of this is that we need to be present. And in order to sense into the emergence of the future, in order to be able to respond to the call of the moment, we have to be in the moment. And have to have a willingness. When I say have to, I'm talking about condition. Like we need to have a willingness to be in the unknown rather than to fall into the comfort and the false safety and assurance of the past. And that's not to say that the past doesn't offer us many opportunities to shift the future. I'm not counseling ignorance. There's two wonderful podcasts, actually probably more than two wonderful podcasts from Rachel Maddow, who is a political commentator, and I guess we could call her journalist also. Um, and she does remarkable research. And one of the podcasts is called, oh boy, what is it called? Ultra. And another one is called Deja News. And there are others as well. But these two podcasts particularly look at current trends in Deja News looks at current trends, what's happening in politics, what's happening in the news, and looking into the past to find correlative stories or correlating stories. And it's really quite remarkable how the playbook from some of these stories is being implemented in almost identical ways now. So being informed by the past is valuable, and finding some kind of balance to be able to be informed, but somehow unprejudiced, conditioned somehow, to be able, there's this delicate balance that we get to learn to dance with, of being able to use information without being at the effect of it, without being shackled by it, like as an only option or as the truth, for example. Because there are many, many things that are occurring, as I said earlier, that are new in our recorded experience. And we get to learn to navigate these shifting sands. When we sense into what could emerge, it's a much bigger field of potential than if we look at what's happened. And the truth is that the skills that we may have acquired over the past are not skills to equip us to move into the requirements and the calling of this moment and the moments that are emerging. So this paradigm of business where money is paramount, above and beyond everything and anything, is stifling our capacity and our capabilities to even envision something that is truly, truly sustainable. That all these self-interests, corporate interests, self-interests, short-term interests are stymieing the actions we need to take. And it's an important inquiry to be considering, what is it going to take to shift us out of the existing stronghold of our past systems that we have been slavishly devoted to, consciously or otherwise. So we just sort of accept certain things because it's always been that way. We accept that there's poverty. We accept that there's hunger. We accept that there's war. We accept this notion of scarcity, that if I have more, you have less. Like there's a limit of what is available. And truly there are limits on resources that we might be pillaging from the earth. But we operate in this idea of scarcity with an adolescent very self-absorbed perspective that is disconnected from the greater whole. And so the question of this emergence is also a question of connectivity to ourselves, one another, the whole, because we can feel into it. We can feel into what are the ramifications of our actions. We can feel into the ripples that are created by the choices that we make. And it means cultivating a wholeness within ourselves that allows us to be truly present, to be as free and freeing ourselves as much as possible from the limits and the constraints and constriction of our assumptions and our beliefs, to be able to test those beliefs, to be able to question them, to be able to see them in the first place. And that's part of this emergence, is presencing. Presencing is the key, as always. So I think that's it for this morning. And I invite us all to step into what is emergence, rather than who am I as defined by my past? Who can I be? Who can I grow into? Who can I live into being as I'm called into service to the greater whole? So, as always, it's a tremendous privilege to spend this time with you each morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as my own Facebook pages, Mira Rubin and Core Connection, at 9 a.m. Eastern each weekday morning. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And I am so grateful to you for this opportunity to think things through together, to talk things through, to explore things together, and bring ourselves into greater wholeness. So until next time, so much love to you.